Apophis. It's not just a chunk of rock in space, it's now an in-joke in video games because it's named after some demon or some character in mythology. But let's look into what it really is and what it isn't. And let's talk about the lack of cover-up or mystery. There's this claim every damn day that I get that NASA is never a straight answer and they always lie about stuff, etc. But the trouble with this is you can independently check this and it's really easy to do. Let's look at it. First of all, this is a big chunk of rock and I'm sure this is an artist's rendition of it, but let's see if you can do better. Let's look at this. That's its position being tracked. It tells you where to look with a telescope if you want to see the blasted thing. It's not hidden. There's no holograms. There's never a straight answer. It's running at relative velocity of 31 kilometers a second. That's it. It's doing 60 kilometers per second in one way or another. But there's your information. If we sit here long enough, it'll update the location of it. This is a well-studied object, okay? All right, well, let's look at another one. This shows you the orbit. Now, as you might imagine, it's not a permanent threat because it has to hit the Earth when the Earth is lined up with it. The location it can hit at is limited. And unfortunately, this web page here is trying to be entertaining instead of informative, and I can't get the orbit diagram to just stop doing this rotation. TheSkyLive.com. Make a functional thing for people to use. But anyway, there's two locations in the orbit that it can hit. And of course, it's hiding that this end here, which is not the month we're in, that month that corresponds with that part of our orbit for our planet is when it would hit, not some other time. Next, as you can see from it not overlapping and being really badly written software, I mean, seriously, guys, write a better hunk of code. It's not going to hit the Earth when it's in this particular month, so we're not going to run into it. So yeah, that's the point in time, literally, that it can hit. And the keyway, or the window that it occupies, doesn't show that it's going to hit us at all. But you can keep predicting if you want to. You can keep doing the fearmonger BS. But the information's right there, even if it is prepared by somebody who had nothing better to do than to add extra animation when it wasn't needed. Again, dear The Sky Live, knock this off. You suck. I'm sorry, but why would you do this? It makes it harder to use your product. Just stop that. I'll send you feedback. Please go to theskylive.com/apophis-info. Hit that give feedback button and say, stop doing the cheesy animations. We're trying to figure out where and when it might hit us, you morons. Next. A pentagon-shaped sun lens flare popped up now and then when taking pics of the sun midday. 3 months later, the pentagon shape became a hexagon shape. Well, how does that happen? You can't have multiple blades added in. That doesn't make any sense. Well, here's your answer if you want to. The same camera can have this problem because one of the blades is stuck. It usually happens when it's opening up the aperture rather than closing, obviously, and it gets stuck and the number of blades seems to reduce. As you can see, this is an example of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blades becomes this weird, almost pentagon shape. It looks like a diamond. You can also get ones that, for novelty reasons, and I don't even know why, will produce certain shapes so that you have a certain characteristic dot in the background because it's interesting looking. And here's the reason why. These are the parts for it. The blade actuating ring on the upper right there can be worn out or have garbage in it. You have to take it apart and clean it or just change out the lenses. And if it's a cheap camera, this is extremely common. Basically, the base plate on the bottom, those 5 little pins, mark in with those 5 little points there, and then the blade actuating ring grabs the outer edges and moves it in. That's all it is to it. That's the way it works, and that's how it moves them. And if any of those blades get stuck or there's dirt or whatever, it'll reduce or increase the number of edges, or actually it would just reduce it. So odds are you had a hexagonal one and it became a 5-sided one by accident. And yes, it is confusing. Yes, I've seen other videos like that. Thank you for pointing that out. Next. I'm skipping the first question because it involves math. Here we go. Wikipedia, the Bloody Benders, believed to have killed at least a dozen travelers before their crimes were discovered and the family fled, with their fate uncertain from 1871 to 1873. and are now folklore and legend, making it difficult to separate fact from fiction, and they're the subject of lots and lots of myths. They're cannibals, and they're supposed to be part of a long line of cannibals going all the way back to Sawney Bean, executed for the mass murder and cannibalism of 1,000 people in the 13th and 16th centuries. Now, I want you to look at the number of centuries there. Seriously. Very good. Reportedly. This was in British chapbook rumor magazines of the day as a political propaganda tool to denigrate the Scots after the Jacobite rebellions. 3 centuries. Nobody mentions that he's 300 years old and a vampire? Okay, here we go. Also, in the Newgate calendar, a crime catalog of Newgate Prison in London. If you can't get the century right, it's a myth. Historians tend to believe that he never existed. Yeah, or he was a 300-year-old vampire cannibal that nobody made note of, except in like 2 locations. The story has been greatly exaggerated and is passed into local folklore, and it's used for the tourism industry in Edinburgh. Because money. Someone pointed this out to me. It's like both of those are probably not really true things that have happened. Next one, it's probably based on Christie Cleek from 1340, which would at least match up with the 1300s. But that's it. And I'd like to point out, someone brought up Ma Barker as being part of some line of vampires or some sort of elitist group that's killing people. This is associated with a Pizzagate comment or something else. The trouble with this is Ma Barker wasn't a cannibal. There is no indication this has anything to do with it. And again, the Bloody Benders and Sawney Bean are probably not real people. And again, there are reports from 13th to 16th century. I don't think so. Okay, let's just do that. Now I'm going to read this one raw. Have you ever sat down and performed the method of exhaustion to do the polygonal approximation of the area of a circle or other weird shapes as closely as possible? No, I took calculus and hated it. An interesting hands-on way to really appreciate the complexity of such computations. Sheds light on infinity's function as a concept, because that way you can slice up things infinite number of times, or a practical limit, and you're able to figure out the surface area by doing line segments only. Yes, I know about this. We have to use these approximations and then, of course, test them when we do complex waveforms. See also fast Fourier transforms that are used sometimes to figure this out. It's also what you use now for listening to my voice or seeing videos sometimes. Any usable number has to be truncated or rounded at some point because of escalating decimalism. And that ties into subjects such as signal processing. Ideal brick wall filters are unreliable due to the requirement of an infinite number of lobes. And then we can also talk about oscillations in general and sampling and statistical analysis and other fun things. But now I'm just in the mood for some pie. Thank you very much. That was a good comment. It was on topic, unlike some of the others that were not even associated. So let's review. Number 1, I farking hate calculus, but not as much as I farking hate quantum mechanics, and I'm not going to do any of those calculations. Yes, I've done them. I can say I did them, and I'm never going to do them again. I'll let computers do it for me. I'm sorry. I just test to see if they're wrong, because you can test it, oddly enough, by using a proper hunk of an analog equipment to get a better answer. Next, the Bloody Benders and Sawney Bean and Christie Cleek, all of this stuff getting conflagrated over a 300-year period of time, and then into the 1800s, and then being confused with Ma Barker, all being cannibals. This is BS, and most likely not even based on real people in most cases, and there is a financial reason for people to exaggerate these things. Next, Apophis is a dead subject because it's not going to hit us and make us dead. Next, it may be big, but we can predict it, and you can go watch a lineup on it. At night, you can find out where it's located and go ahead and see if you can see the dang thing. It moves pretty quickly. You can actually, within 3 hours, it moves that distance. You can detect these things. Why not use a telescope instead of watching Paul Bagley lie some more? Next, theskylive.com, use a better animation and stop trying to make it look interesting. You're just chewing up bandwidth and you make it harder to use their interface. Seriously, guys, stop that. Next, camera apertures break. This is the reason why most cameras now use refresh rates and don't have apertures. But this can also happen with the focusing equipment tilting the lens. I should point that out, that it becomes an astigmatism. And yes, you can get that effect happening, and sometimes it's on purpose in some cameras because it's for some stupid technical reason, which I can't comprehend. I don't think it's a good idea. And yes, mechanical systems are pretty and elegant and everything, but they break in weird ways. And thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And I'm not going to do any calculus today. Bye.